Hi class. Today we are going to talk about classes and structures. So we will start with structures first. First of all, why are we learning classes and structures? Because it's the meat of object-oriented programming. I believe this is probably the reason why, or one of the reasons why you are taking this class. It will prepare you to learn other languages much better because there are so many languages that is depending on this I would say feature or paradigm, because there are other ways of programming. There are functional programming that why object-oriented programming is easier for most people, I would say, is because it's very similar to how we deal with the world. We deal with the world like with a lot of objects. And so that's one way to think about the world, not the only way, definitely. But without going into too many details of other kind of paradigms, let's just say that the main concept for object-oriented programming is classes. But to understand classes, it's better to start from structure. Not that we won't use structures, but classes is the main thing in the object-oriented programming. You will see why after we talked about it. So let's start with struct. Basically, no matter if it's struct or classes, we are creating our own data type. In a struct, not that this is the only way, but when we look at struct, we always just consider that it is a collection of member variables. So you see here the example of a car. There are three member variables. They are the make, they are the model, and the year. Make and model, we use the string data type that we need to add a library when we write the program. But in is a standard library that's or data type, we will call it, that's already there. Two things I want to remind you is that for the name of a struct, it's kind of the normal way to design the name is to use camel case. So what is camel case? Camel case is the capital letter for each word, the first letter of each word, and then you chain it together. So so here, because I just used the word car, it's just capital C. But let's say if day of week, for example, then you would have the day of week. So you would have the D capitalized, the O capitalized of, right? And then week, W capitalized, and then chain them together. Another thing to, but that is kind of like a convention though. So you can follow it. And I think if you follow it, it's much easier for other people to read your code. And when you read other people's code, that's probably what you will see. And so it's good to follow the convention sometimes. Not that we always do, but we are learning a language. So for communication purpose, sometimes you just have to follow rules. For a struct, at the end of the definition, you have to, or I would say, you would use a semicolon. This is blocking it. So the semicolon will, if you miss it, it will cause a syntax error. So remember it, because even I forget it sometimes. So now to declare an object, it's very simple. You just use it like any other data type, put it in the front, and then your variable name. So you can consider it a variable, or it is basically an object variable, or you can say that it's an object, or that's kind of how we want to see it. This is object-oriented programming. And yeah, this is the object of the class car. So we can actually declare and initialize in the same line very easily by just using this notation. It's kind of like initiating an array, but following the order of how the structure was declared in the beginning or defined. The declare and defined are kind of mixed up in some of the ways that we are talking about this, because in classes for some reason we would say that we define and then we implement, and then in other data types we say that or functions we say that we declare and then we define. Anyways, I think you look at the code, you will understand. So because make is the first one, model is the second one, year is the third one. So when we initialize in that order. We can access and modify a member by simply using the dot operator. So by this is the object and then dot, and then the make is the member variable name. And then by using that, we can access it. You can see out the value, but of course we have to set the value first. Here we haven't really initialized it, so we would then use assignment operator, which is an equal, to assign a value to it. So like I said, my car, how we defined it was a object of type car, or we sometimes call it an instance of type car. And because it's an object, and so we say that is a object-oriented programming. So we can modify a whole object also by just using assignment operator, and by just assigning your car equals to my car, your car will get all these values just by this one operation. So let's do a demo. Here you will see that we have the struct car, and then so I initialized my car using VW Passat 2018, and then I print out my car's year, make, and model, and then I create a car for you, your car. And then I use the dot operator to set up their values, and then I print it out again, and then I change your car to become my car, and then print out both cars again. So let's run the program. So as you can see, so my car is a 2018 Volkswagen Passat. Your car is a 2014 Ferrari F60. But once we set your car is equal to my car, then we both have the same value. I believe, so to recap, this is this is a way, or the object-oriented way, to create our own data type. This is the first example of it. We talk about member variables for the struct. We talk about how to declare and initialize a struct. We talk about how to access the member variables using dot operators. We talk about how it's the variable that we declare from using the new data type that we created is called an object or an instance of that data type, and we can modify a whole object. Just so you are prepared, this chapter is probably the most important chapter or most important module of the whole class. Of course, the basics were important, that's why we put those first, but this will be the most important module of the whole class, and this is going to be longer than the other ones. And so, but I hope you would enjoy it and learn how to do object-oriented programming really well. We'll see you in the next video.